Hi there, Coach Sage Kennedy of SageRunning.com here with another training talk on how to run under 1:30 for a half marathon. So I just want to start off with the idea that this is applicable to if you're running 1:45 and want to run under 1:40, as well as if you're on the faster side and you want to run under 1:20 or even 1:15 for a half marathon. These tips really apply. You'll just have to change the paces on some of the workout examples that I give you. So as you may know, half marathon, it's a pretty long distance. It's a long distance race, really a great goal for a lot of people. And we'll link to, at the end of this, we'll have a free training plan that we're giving away. If you're even more on the beginner side, maybe you haven't run a half marathon and you're still building your mileage base up, but that'll be a link at the end of this video, as well as another video that I did on half marathon training tips. But to start off, a lot of people ask me, Sage, how did you run a half marathon at 4:55 per mile pace, or about 3:03 per kilometer pace? Because it's actually fairly close to my 10K race pace and my 5K race pace. And the idea of running a faster half marathon really comes down to stamina, your endurance, and being able to hold a faster and faster speed over pretty long distances for a long duration of time, and having that heart and lung fitness as well as that skeletal muscular fitness, so your leg muscle fitness and efficiency to be able to do that without tying up or going over your lactate threshold, huffing and puffing, or bonking and things like that. So it really comes down to building your stamina through consistent training, and that's what I want to talk about in this video today. So to break it down, to run under 1:30 for a half, you got to average at least 6:51 per mile pace, or about 4:15 per kilometer pace, which is a very fast pace. It's a very competitive time for a lot of people. You're going to be placing really well in races in the US, running this kind of performance. But to get there, it's going to take a lot of stamina, and the idea that your endurance, your strength, equals speed. And that's the whole thing with long distance running especially, is that the more strength you have, the more consistent you could be in pulling out maybe your top sprinting speed or your top 5K and 10K speed over something that's over twice the distance in length. So 6:51 per mile pace, 4:15 per kilometer pace, that's a fast pace. But most of your training, maybe 80% of your running, of your actual training on a weekly basis, might be a minute per mile slower than that, 8-minute mile pace, or about 5 minutes per kilometer pace. That's a pace that you could build a higher volume of your running at. And again, it goes back to this aerobic base building phase, being consistent, running 6 or 7 days a week versus only running 4 or 5 days a week, running consistently higher mileage, even at slower paces, much slower paces, so you don't get hurt. And that's really the key there is, if you want to run for health, if you want to run for fitness, you can't be hurt. You have to be able to build up very slowly with your easy pace mileage, and a lot of times that involves slowing down on your easy days, building up that volume. Now, for a lot of people that run under 1:30 and a half, they're running pretty high mileage volume. They've probably been running for quite some time. If you're not quite at that level yet, again, we're going to have a link to our free 9-week aerobic base building training plan at the end of this video. But, if you're running 30 miles per week or 50K per week, and you start building up to maybe 100K per week or 60 miles per week, that's going to give you a lot better of a chance probably to run a lot faster in the half marathon. And for, my example, I've had to run over 100 miles a week or 160 kilometers per week for years and years and years to be able to run my half marathon PR. And it took a lot of effort. Now, I assume most of you don't have the time to run that crazy amount, but just making small changes, even at easy paces and relatively lower intensity training to stay healthy, is going to be a key for setting you up for these more quality workouts that I'm about to talk about that are really going to boost your fitness and give you the edge. So a lot of fitness in distance running events, especially 10K to half marathon, kind of revolve around what we call the lactate threshold intensity, or what at Sage Running and a lot of coaches will call the tempo run intensity. Now, for half marathoners running in the 1:30 range, this is quite a little bit faster than your goal half marathon pace. And if you're, a 1:45 half marathon runner, maybe it's even closer to your 10K pace. It's not quite 10K pace, but it's kind of in between that spectrum. And this involves doing fairly long workouts, starting with maybe like what we call the 20-minute tempo run or a 20-minute run at this pace. And for the example of running under 1:30 and a half marathon, this might be about 6:40 per mile pace for 20 minutes. And maybe you do that early on in your training cycle. You're just running 6:40 pace, which I have to look up. That's 4:07 per kilometer pace as your theoretical tempo run pace. And this is if you're in about 1:30 half marathon race shape right then and there. So maybe you're starting a little bit slower on that spectrum. You're running 20 minutes at that. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, you're building up to a workout that is also in the lactate threshold tempo run category, but instead this time you're doing 2 times 3 mile repeats or 2 times 5 kilometer repeats. Now this is, for a lot of people, this is going to be basically 2 by 20 minutes. So it's twice as much volume, at the same intensity. And you take a 6-minute rest break in between these 3 mile repeats or these 5 kilometer repeats. But it's at that intensity, just faster than half marathon race pace. And we call that more of a long duration, high volume lactate threshold stimulus. Now, it's still only 6 miles worth of work. So, you're going to have to string together. Your race is going to be, 4 times that distance of that 3 kilometer or that 3 mile, 5 kilometer repeat. But it's going to be, hopefully on race day, you're tapered, you get in better shape, and you're able to pull out that speed. And it's not going to be quite as fast as your lactate threshold because you don't race the whole half marathon at your lactate threshold intensity. Then if we keep progressing with this idea of progression in our lactate threshold types of workouts, the next workout 3 weeks later might be a 6-mile run or a 10-kilometer run straight up at a little bit faster or at least half marathon goal race pace. So maybe it's a tad slower, or maybe it's the same intensity, hopefully, but you're doing it all at once. You're doing 6 miles or 10 kilometers all at once at close to about lactate threshold, or at least a little bit faster than your half marathon race pace. And that's just a quick example of how you would progress with these types of workouts. So now in between peak season, to get in peak shape, you're probably going to want to do a lactate threshold or the tempo run type of workout at least once per week. That's a gold standard, is doing a threshold workout once per week, doing a long run also once a week, and then the final icing on the cake, of course, and this goes back to my other videos in 5K and 10K training, 5-pace training theory, right? Let's say this middle finger, I'm flicking you off. Middle finger is your half marathon race pace. These 2 fingers are going to be faster notches of paces, and these 2 fingers are going to be slower notches of paces. So, we've already covered a faster notch. In this case is actually going to be your tempo run pace, right? That's 1 step faster. Now, if you want to go one more step faster, which would be more into what we call VO2 max type of realm, or 5K race pace for a lot of people, that's going to really give you the edge in terms of building your leg speed, but also getting your heart and lungs working at basically full capacity and making half marathon race pace feel a lot more comfortable. It gives you a lot better of an edge. So we're working down on that speed. We're looking at doing workouts like interval types of workouts. Maybe it's on a track, maybe it's on a measured course of 1 mile repeats, something like 4 times 1 mile repeat, or even 5 times 1 mile repeat. And these are going to be significantly faster than your half marathon race pace. They don't have to be crazy fast or, as hard as possible, but they're pretty hard. You're probably getting up over 90 to 95% maximum heart rate. And you would be running, for this 1:30 half marathon runner, they would be running in the low 6-minute per mile or 6-minute per 1600 meter range, probably 6:05 to 6:10. But then with a really controlled rest, maybe you only get a 4-minute rest between each hard mile repeat or hard 1600 meter repeat. So that's going to be another workout. Maybe only do that once every other week or once every 10 days. And you couple that together with your lactate threshold workouts, progressing more with pretty high volume, high moderate intensity workouts. And that's really the bread and butter of building, you're reaching your potential in a race like the half marathon. It takes a lot of endurance, it takes a lot of stamina, it takes a lot of easy, consistent mileage, and it takes those quality workouts. But how you implement them together is going to be the real key and the art and science of your half marathon training. Thanks so much for following along. Really appreciate all the supporters on Patreon. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm going to come out with tons more training talks as well as other tips and exercises to hopefully get the most out of this sport. It's a sport that I love, and love sharing this and hearing your comments below. So give it a thumbs up if you like these types of videos. Again, I'll link to my other half marathon training tips video as well as a subscription to our channel. You can subscribe there. And then finally, we're giving away that free 9-week aerobic base building training plan. It's more geared towards beginners, but if you've been running a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and you want to reach that next level, that'll be the link, sagerunning.com, to get there. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.